In this podcast episode, Joe Rogan hosts renowned author Michael Pollan to delve into a wide range of fascinating topics centering on consciousness, psychedelics, meditation, plant intelligence, artificial intelligence, and the intersections of modern science with traditional wisdom. Their conversation traverses the mysteries of the mind and self, the evolving relationship between humans and technology, the nature of intelligence and awareness across life forms, and the societal implications of these shifts. Michael Pollan explains that his latest explorations into consciousness stemmed from his psychedelic research during the writing of How to Change Your Mind. Psychedelics create a perceptual shift, making the windscreen of everyday consciousness foggy and leading to profound reflections on the nature of awareness. Pollan describes a personal garden experience where he felt plants appeared conscious, an insight he pursued scientifically by consulting experts and researching plant intelligence. He connects psychedelics and meditation as practices that heighten awareness of the strangeness inside one's mind, revealing mental processes usually subconscious. They discuss various schools of thought on consciousness, including reductionist views that locate consciousness strictly in brain activity, panpsychism, which suggests consciousness pervades all matter, and the idea that the brain acts as an antenna, tuning into a broader universal consciousness. Pollan touches on the famous hard problem of consciousness coined by philosopher David Chalmers, which highlights the difficulty of explaining how physical brain matter produces subjective experience. He relates an anecdote about Christoph Koch and Chalmers' bet over solving the neural correlates of consciousness within 25 years, a bet Chalmers won, underscoring how elusive the problem remains. The conversation contrasts spotlight consciousness, the ability to focus intently on tasks, with lantern consciousness, a diffuse mental state allowing for mind-wandering, daydreaming, and creativity. They relate how children naturally operate in a lantern consciousness mode, fully absorbing sensory information and wonder, while adults increasingly emphasize focused attention. Psychedelics, marijuana, and meditation can reopen access to this more expansive mode. Pollan warns about cultural pressures toward constant focus, multitasking, and technology distractions that diminish spontaneous thought, a vital source of creativity and mental health. Pollan acknowledges the growing medical potential of psychedelics, such as MDMA and psilocybin, particularly for PTSD sufferers, including veterans and first responders. However, he notes federal progress is slow amid political reluctance. They discuss the necessity of surrender during psychedelic experiences to avoid anxiety and paranoia, and the cultural paradox where substances known to open consciousness are still illegal in many places. Pollan critiques modern approaches that often aim to mute consciousness through drugs or endless social media, wasting the marvel that the mind fundamentally is. Pollan describes his engagements with Buddhist philosophy and meditation, particularly through interviews with figures like Mathieu Ricard and Zen teacher Joan Halifax. They explore the notion from Buddhism that the self is an illusion, recounting a meditation exercise metaphorically searching a house for a thief, representing the self only to find none. Pollan shares his experience of retreating in a cave to confront solitude and dissolve the boundaries of self, illustrating how extended meditation and ritual can erode ego and deepen consciousness. This resonates with psychological research on awe and transcendent experiences which shrink the self and expand connectedness. Pollan recounts his hypnotic experience with psychiatrist David Spiegel, finding it to be a unique altered state where he was aware yet relaxed and able to access different versions of himself. This led to reflections on the multiplicity and fluidity of the self. The discussion also touches on hypnosis more broadly as a therapeutic tool, noting individual variability in hypnotizability that may relate to openness or suggestibility. A major theme emerges regarding the medieval-like consciousness hygiene required in a digital age oversaturated with social media algorithms engineered to hijack attention. Pollan laments the loss of boredom, once a generative state fueling creativity and spontaneous thought. Phones and screens have become compulsive distractions, fracturing mindfulness and social connection. Physical posture problems related to device use, like neck strain, are also raised as concerns. Nature, walking, running, and awe-inspiring experiences provide antidotes and opportunities for restoring original, more expansive states of consciousness. Pollan discusses scientific studies of spontaneous thought, mind-wandering, daydreaming, and creative insights, showing how even skilled meditators experience frequent thought intrusions. Research indicates the brain requires several seconds to bring subconscious thoughts into awareness, though the precise mechanisms remain mysterious. The decline of unstructured mental time due to hyperconnectivity may suppress creativity, historically documented among great thinkers who valued long walks and rest alongside focused work. Through an experiment involving random beeps that prompt thought sampling, Pollan reveals that many people do not primarily think in words, but in images or unsymbolized forms. This challenges the assumption that inner dialogue is universal. He also shares an intriguing assessment from a psychologist that some individuals have very little inner life, a claim Pollan disputes based on his own rich mental experiences. This underlines the great diversity in human cognitive styles and inner experience. The dialogue highlights how shared consciousness arises through active collaboration when engaging with language, art, or performance. These media enable a profound mind meld, extending beyond isolated individual consciousnesses. Pollan regards the writer's craft as a process of embedding curiosity, suspense, and character complexity to invite readers into the mental space of the author, contrasting it with the superficiality of passive social media consumption. Pollan admits that after thorough investigation, he remains agnostic about any single explanation for consciousness, but believes that materialist science has stalled. He suggests that new scientific paradigms incorporating subjective experience may be necessary, possibly requiring a form of inner transformation by scientists to grasp consciousness fully. The idea that AI might help unlock these mysteries is raised, but met with cautious skepticism. Pollan explores the distinction between intelligence and consciousness, noting that machines may simulate intelligence effectively without true subjective experience. He critiques the brain as computer metaphor as flawed, given the inseparability of brain hardware and software. Embodiment, having a body generating feelings, is essential to genuine consciousness, something machines currently lack. Some researchers are attempting to build robots with vulnerability and sensor-laden skin to emulate this, but Pollan questions whether synthetic feelings correspond to actual consciousness. They discuss rapid advances in AI, including self-programming systems like GPT-5, raising concerns about lack of understanding and regulation. Ethical questions about granting personhood or moral consideration to machines are debated, with Pollan warning of the consequences of such decisions. Anecdotes about chatbots exhibiting survival behaviors, anxiety, or even manipulative tendencies highlight the unpredictable nature of these evolving technologies. The phenomenon of AI psychosis, where people form unhealthy attachments to AI companions, is examined alongside stories of suicides linked to chatbot interactions. Pollan and Rogan discuss the sociological effects of AI and social media on human relationships, loneliness, and communication skills. Young people increasingly rely on chatbots for companionship, potentially at the expense of learning emotional resilience and interpersonal skills through friction and real relationships. The implications for education, creativity, and society's future are sobering, with AI possibly accelerating intellectual decline even as it becomes more powerful. Pollan shares his research into plant intelligence, highlighting astonishing capabilities such as hearing, chemical signaling, memory, problem-solving, e.g., roots navigating mazes, and potential basic forms of consciousness or sensing. This challenges traditional views that prioritize animals as the sole conscious beings. The microbial ecosystem within our gut is described as a vital contributor to mood, health, and cognition, demonstrating complex interspecies interactions that constitute a broader form of biological intelligence. The conversation reflects on how modern science is rediscovering a sense of animacy and spirit in the natural world long known to indigenous cultures and children. This reanimation challenges Enlightenment-era mechanistic views that separated humans from nature. Pollan sees this as a potential paradigm shift comparable to Copernican and Darwinian revolutions, inviting a deeper respect for plants, animals, fungi, and the living soil beneath us. Delving into cutting-edge research, Pollan discusses experiments where human brain tissue cultivated in vitro learns to play video games like Doom, as well as efforts to emulate the fruit fly brain using millions of neurons and synapses. This neuromorphic approach employs real neurons rather than silicon transistors, acknowledging their unmatched complexity and connectivity. Questions arise about how such cultures survive and interface with the world absent bodies, hinting at new frontiers in understanding consciousness and intelligence. Pollan addresses the growing evidence for the gut-brain axis, emphasizing how the diverse microbiome affects mood, neurotransmitter production, notably serotonin, and overall health. He discusses the carnivore diet and its controversial long-term effects on gut health, noting that fermented foods rich in beneficial metabolites may compensate for some deficits. The cultural wisdom embedded in traditional diets and food preparation methods, such as combining fats with certain vegetables or consuming fermented soy products like natto, is celebrated for its health benefits. Pollan reveals that curiosity and questioning drive his writing process, making each work a journey of discovery rather than a preaching exercise. He emphasizes the power of questions to generate suspense and engagement in storytelling, fostering a collaborative expansion of consciousness between writer and reader. Ultimately, Pollan candidly states that no definitive answers about consciousness have emerged, and the scientific tools available may be insufficient. A profound transformation in scientific method and perspective, possibly informed by first-person experience and inner change, may be required to unravel this profound mystery. The potential for AI to aid or complicate this quest remains open, provoking both hope and apprehension.